Lubbock Representative Jody Arrington visited the district this morning to speak to local business leaders and address some issues concerning the nation. KCBD News Channel 11's Sydney Lowther tells us why he believes current policies are negatively impacting rural communities like ours.
Keeping the federal government off the backs and out of the way of our local leadership.
Representative Jody Arrington believes the Biden administration policies are negatively affecting rural communities like Lubbock. He presented those concerns to the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce board and local business leaders.
Remember, the small businesses are the job creators and the economic engine of this great economy of ours.
Congressman Arrington, who chairs the House Budget Committee, warned them about a recession over the debt ceiling. He is one of many Republicans who do not want to raise the nation's credit limit without cutting government spending. The chairman says a recession would hit farmers and factory workers the hardest.
And it's awfully hard to grow an economy when your expenses are astronomical and when you can't fully staff up.
He also emphasized the need for better crop insurance in this year's upcoming farm bill, saying the current model does not pay out enough.
We need to make sure the farm bill works, that it's responsible, that it's meaningful, and that it contributes to the stability of rural America and the ag economy.
The final address was the national issue of border security.
But what is happening at our border and the lack of security is not just unacceptable, it's the biggest public safety and security risk that we face.
He says loose border policies from the federal level puts more pressure on the state.
Protecting and securing our sovereign border is a federal purview of responsibility.
Arrington said, in his opinion, the current administration is not doing enough as a whole to protect our rural communities. Sydney Lowther, KCBD News Channel 11.